Hi everyone, my name is Amity and this is Read by Amity, and today I come to you with my coffee in hand, my thick stack of notes, and a year full of new releases that I want to talk about. So, if you want to hear about new releases for 2026, there's some fantasy, there's some horror, there's a lot of horror, there's some YA, there's some sci fi, speculative fiction, possibly some general fiction, maybe some literary fiction. But yeah, these are just all of the books that are on my radar for 2026. I think there's about 75 of them. So we better get started. Hi friends, jump scare. I am currently editing the new release video, and two things. I noticed, don't mind the boxes in the background, I noticed that there are 3 or 4 books missing in the middle. I'm not sure what happened with the footage there, but it's gone. So we're just going to ignore that. It jumps from book 26 to book 31. We're just going to deal with that. And also, I've decided, because it's already 20 minutes long, 28 minutes long, that I'm cutting it off at June. So this is just the new releases from January through till June, and I will do another video later on in the year covering new releases from June onwards. So enjoy the video, and sorry about the missing books in the middle, and yeah, we'll go from there. So basically, I'm just going to tell you what books they are, when their expected publication date was for, based on Goodreads. Some of them, obviously, because this is now coming to you at the end of January, some of them have already been released, but I still haven't got to them yet, so I'm still counting them as anticipated releases for 2026. So let's get started. Let me just unclip my notes here. Rather than scrolling through my phone looking, oh dear. Yes, rather than scrolling through my phone looking for the descriptions, I thought I would just print them all out. So 76 2026 releases. Maybe I'll move it to the side a little bit so I can put the picture of the book up. Starting with book number 1, then in the Wayward Children series. This one is expected to release, or was expected to release, on January 6th, so it should be out by now. It's actually on my January TBR, but I don't think that I'm going to get to it this month, so definitely want to read that in February. And this is I would say it's an adult. I actually don't know. I think that it's published as an adult series, but it's an adult novella series that's like portal fantasy, but it's following children for the most part. And so it's written in a way that is definitely more suitable to adults. I don't know that I would have a problem with a young adult reading it, but the themes can be quite aggressive. Not quite aggressive. The themes can be very heavy, so it's a series. It's one of my favorite series of all time, and I have not found anything that I would consider comparable to it in terms of the fantasy elements, in terms of the vibes. It kind of feels like a little bit of a goblin marketplace, like, seems to be a way that I describe things actually quite often. But yeah, very, very much looking forward to that one. And that gets released in January every year. So I dread the day that Shauna Maguire stops publishing stops publishing installments of that series. The next one that we have is another release that has already come out, as most of these will be. So book 2 is Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy, and this one was expected to release on January 20th of this year. And this is Jeanette McCurdy's first fiction book. So she has written a book previous to this, and that was her memoir, I'm Glad My Mum Died. And this one is a fiction novel. So it says here, I'm just going to read the little description for each of them. One of the most anticipated books of the year, half his age, is the debut novel from former teen star Jeanette McCurdy, who basically went supernova a few years back with her memoir, I'm Glad My Mum Died. McCurdy's novel introduces 17-year-old Waldo, a high school student who falls deeply into something with her creative writing teacher. Maybe it's love, maybe it's lust, and maybe it just needs to be seen. I have heard mixed things about this book so far, but I tend to kind of ignore the reviews and, you know, let myself decide whether or not it's something for me. Book 3 is The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead. Now, I don't know why I have it in my head that Ashley Winstead writes books that I love when I literally have never finished a book that she's written. I think I just love the concepts that she comes up with. But this one is from romance and thriller specialist Ashley Winstead, who wrote In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which I own. I want to read it. Goes in another direction entirely with the story of a music industry executive who falls for a self-destructive singer of the ascendant California indie rock band The Future Saints. Winstead digs up into themes of grief and family dysfunction as she maps the twisty roads of love, friendship, and quality rock music. So it's giving a little bit of Daisy Jones and the Six. Book 4 is The Poet Empress by Shen Tao. Debut author Shen Tao invites readers to the Azalea dynasty, where corruption and greed have left the people on the brink of starvation. When young Wei Yin finds herself in the palace corridors of power, she makes a decision that could change everything. Tao's epic fantasy Tao's epic fantasy features dark themes and brutal passages. Check content notes, along with an innovative magic system based on poetry. And this one comes out. I actually haven't written the publication date on this one, so editing Amity, this one's on you. This one comes out on January 20th. All right, book 5. We're on a roll here, people. Hemlock by Melissa Falavino. A woman haunted by a dark inheritance returns to the woods where her mother vanished. In this queer gothic novel, a butch black swan. Interesting. This one was also due to be published on January 20th. Then we have book 6, The Infamous Gilberts by Angela Tomasky. The Remains of the Day meets the Royal Tenenbaums in this darkly funny debut novel about wealthy, eccentric family in decline and the secrets held within the walls of their crumbling country manor. And this one was also due to be released on January 20th. Book 7 is We Call Them Witches by India Rose Bauer. Most people have been devoured by the eldritch creatures, but Sarah and her family have been fighting for survival, armed with their knowledge of folklore and pagan rituals, the only weapon that seems to work against these monsters. And this one was due to be published on January 22nd. Then we have On Sundays, She Picked Flowers by Yaya Schofield, and this one was due to be published on January 27th. So it says, in this sinister and surreal Southern Gothic debut, a woman escapes into the uncanny world of Southern Georgia and must contend with ghosts, haunts, and most dangerous of all, the truth about herself. Now, one thing you might notice with these little blurbs that I'm reading to you is that they don't give a lot of details, and that's because I don't like reading the blurbs of books because sometimes I feel as though they give spoilers. Obviously, if they're blurbed, they're not giving spoilers because that's what they wanted us to know. But I prefer going into books just having a general idea about what they're about and kind of figuring everything out for myself. So when a blurb like really spells it out to me, I'm not really interested in the book then because I feel like I know the entire story. So I have just found in the last 5 years or so of my reading that if I steer clear from the blurbs or I read just a little sentence or two, then I will get enough to know that I'm interested in the book and also save myself from any spoilers, potential spoilers. Book number 9 is The Unwritten Rules of Magic by Harper Ross, and this one was due to be published on January 27th as well. And this one is for fans of the Midnight Library and in 5 years. The Unwritten Rules of Magic in the spellbinding novel that blends magic and memory in an unforgettable journey through love, grief, and the hidden cost of perfection across 3 generations of women. So that one sounds like a literary speculative speculative fantasy. Book 10, Cruelty Free by Caroline Glenn, expected to be published on February 3rd. For fans of Monica Kim and Rachel Yoder, a twisted debut horror novel in which a disgraced movie star returns to Hollywood 10 years after the kidnapping of her young daughter, intent on seeking revenge. Quick coffee break. Book 11, Queen of Faces by Petra Lord. A desperate girl at a cutthroat magical academy faces a choice between life and death: become an assassin for the enchanted elite, or watch her decaying body draw its last breath. That sounds incredible. I don't know if I said it already, but that one comes out on February 3rd. Then we have Nightshade and Oak by Molly O'Neill, and this one says, an Iron Age goddess must grapple with becoming human in this delightful historical fantasy of myth and magic from the author of the instant hit Green Teeth. Expected publication February 3rd. Then we have Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinnerman. From the author of the Smash D&D Fever Dream, Dungeon Crawler Carl, this sci-fi adventure Operation Bounce House proposes another mad scenario steeped in the specifics of gamer culture. The gist? A nefarious corporation decides to test its new war machines by letting Earth gamers remotely kill off the settlers of a distant colony planet. Look for dark humor, drone warfare, and grim allegory. This one's already on my 26 in 2026, so obviously I'm very much looking forward to it. It does come out in February, but I don't have the date written down there. So again, editing Namity, fix this one up for me. Expected publication February 10th. Beautiful. Book 14, She Made Herself a Monster by Anna Kovačeva. A heady, dark-hued Gothic gem of a debut in 19th century Bulgaria. A self-proclaimed vampire slayer, actually a travelling con artist, joins forces with a teenage girl to create a monster deadly enough to vanquish their own demons. And that one is due to come out on February 10. So book 15 is another Feb 10 release, and that one is Tradwife by Saratoga Schaefer. This one says, a traditional wife influencer allows a demonic creature to impregnate her in this unnerving horror novel, perfect for fans of Night Bitch and Mary. From the author of Serial Killer Support Group, every hashtag tradwife needs a baby. She'll get one at any cost. Scary. Then we have one of my most anticipated releases of the year. This one is Agnes Orbert's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. I think this is a blurb rather than a description, but Canadian author Heather Fawcett clearly has her priorities straight. Her new book has a great title and even better cover illustration, and it's all about saving cats. Also, dark magic. Fawcett's cozy fantasy set in 1920s Montreal features a rescue shelter manager who must team up with her new landlord, a failed dark sorcerer, to defeat a common threat. And this one comes out on February 17th. Then we have The Sun and the Star Maker by Rachel Griffin, who wrote The Nature of Witches. So, author Rachel Griffin returns to a love story almost certainly unlike anything you've read before. Plot concerns a shadowed village and a mysterious entity known as the Star Maker. But the amazing part is that author Griffin wrote the book while recovering from traumatic brain injury, or, to use her theory, she recovered by writing the book. Check the book page review section for a note from the author. So I'm assuming that she's written about her journey with that. And this one is due to be published on February 17th. Then we have Nowhere Burning by Catriona Ward. And this says, set in the unforgiving moor of the Rocky Mountains, Nowhere Burning is the latest harrowing novel from bestselling author Catriona Ward, perfect for fans of Riley Sager and the hit series Yellow Jackets. And this one comes out on February 19th. Catriona Ward wrote The Last House on Needless Street and Sundial, and potentially another one that I have read. I can't remember, but yeah, very excited for that one. Then we have The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan, and this one says, based on a series of very real killings starting in 1764, the legend of the Beast of Gévaudan has inspired fevered speculation and werewolf lore for hundreds of years. To wit, author Cameron Sullivan's debut historical fantasy novel, which features an immortal narrator, a troubled romance, and plenty of sorcery, demons, and debauchery. The Red Winter also earns bonus points for that compelling cover art image, which I'm showing here, hopefully. This one's due to be released on February 24. Number 20, Our Monstrous Bodies by Emma Cleary. And this one says, through the dual lenses of art and horror cinema, Emma Cleary brilliantly Through the dual lenses of art and horror cinema, Emma Cleary brilliantly dissects themes of loneliness, motherhood, and bodily autonomy in a haunting literary debut that blooms with the dark desires that we suppress or to which we surrender. And that one is expected to be published on March 1st. Book 21, Green and Deadly Things by Jen Lyons. For fans of S.A. Chakraborty, Robin Hobb, and Martha Wells's Witch King, a page-turning standalone fantasy of necromancy and magical mayhem from Jen Lyons, who is the acclaimed author of The Ruin of Kings, due to come out March 3rd. Then we have Hell's Heart by Alexis Hall. Multi-genre author Alexis Hall, who wrote Boyfriend Material, goes future tense Melville in this new book inspired by the classic Moby Dick. In Hall's reiteration, the whale is a space leviathan, the captain is an obsessive spaceship pilot, and our narrator is a curious earthling named I, which works out nicely for narrating. Look for some gender flipping, a bit of queer space horror, and yet another dispiriting vision of Earth's future. Releasing March 10th. Book number 23 is Spoiled Milk by Avery Curran. This one says, the untimely death of a student at a girls' boarding school turns out to be the first in a haunting series of escalating supernatural events. A thrilling debut novel about teenage repression, queer desire, and the everyday horror of coming of age. And this one is due to release on March 10th. Then we have one that I think a lot of people are excited for, and that is You Did Nothing Wrong by C.G. Drews. You Did Nothing Wrong features a worried mum, her autistic son, and a new take on the haunted house story. Is it supernatural horror? Is it psychological suspense? Is it dark family drama? The answer is yes. Publication expected March 17th. Then we have one from an author that I also consider strangely one of my favorite authors, yet I've only read one thing from them, so definitely want to get around to reading this one, and it is Inamorata by Ava Reed. A visionary and atmospheric gothic fantasy about necromancy, vengeance, and soul-consuming love, the first in a duology from the #1 New York Times bestselling author of A Study in Drowning and Lady Macbeth. Expected publication, March 17th. Book number 26, which is Seasons of Glass and Iron Stories. So it's a short story collection, I think, and that is written by Amal El-Mohtar. It says, full of glimpses into gleaming worlds and fairy tales with teeth. Expected publication, March 24th. All right, we're almost halfway through. My camera battery is dying, so let's see how far we can get. Number 31, Bodies of Work by Clay McLeod Chapman, a chilling supernatural revenge novella from the acclaimed author of Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, perfect for fans of Joe Hill and Delilah S. Dawson. Expected publication, April 7th. Then we have Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke, a traditional American woman, a beautiful wife and mother who sells her pioneer lifestyle of raw milk and farm fresh eggs to her millions of social media followers, suddenly awakens cold, filthy, and terrified in the brutal reality of 1805, where she must unravel whether this living nightmare is an elaborate hoax, a twisty reality show, or something far more sinister in this sensational debut novel. My name was Natalie Heller Mills, and I was perfect at being alive. Interesting. Due to be published on April 7th. Book number 33, The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark. Evelyn Clark is the author duo. Is it V.E. Schwab? I can't remember who, but it's the author duo, so it's a pen name for an author duo. 6 struggling authors are invited to a Scottish island only to find out that their host, famous novelist Arthur Fletch, is most decidedly dead. But his PR people have a proposal. The job? Finish Fletcher's final novel. The prize? A ridiculous amount of money. The catch? Well, it gets interesting. Part satire, part locked room mystery. The Ending Writes Itself is the debut novel from author Evelyn Clark, who is actually 2 authors. Due to be released April 7th. Then we have Wife to Shape Bodies by Laura Cranehill. Sorrowland meets Manhunt in this literary horror debut, in which an isolated newlywed, covered in mushroom growths, like all of the other wives in her community, strikes a precarious balance between following her husband's strict rules and pursuing the intense connection with a woman who makes her question everything. Expected publication April 14th. Then we have The Antiquarian's Object of Desire by India Holton, which is book 3 in the Love's Academic series, which started with The Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, which I just read and gave 5 stars. And the second book is something about a geologist map, I'm pretty sure. So I can't remember the title right now, but that is due to come out on April 21st. Then we have Thistle March by Maria Corrigan, and it says, Fairies disappeared over 100 years ago, as suddenly as slipping through a doorway. It was only the very foolish or the very determined who held out hope for their return. Yes, thank you. Sounds like a cozy fairy tale, so sign me up. And that one comes out on April 21st. Then we have The Caretaker by Marcus Clearware, and this one says, when an unemployed graphic designer Macy Mullins accepts a 3-day house-sitting job over the internet, she figures it'll be easy money, but the gig comes with some oddly specific rules, more like rituals really. Author Marcus Clearware from We Used to Live Here blends supernatural horror with psychological suspense in his latest scary story, and the stakes are higher than they seem. Expected publication April 21st. We have another installment that is on my 26 and 2026 list, and that is Japanese Gothic by Kylie Lee Baker. Using parallel timelines, author Kylie Lee Baker deploys historical fiction to tell a new kind of ghost story. We begin with a very old house in Japan where a young man has taken refuge after trouble back in the US. Meanwhile, in 1877, a female samurai shelters in the same house, and time gets slippery. Expected publication date, April 21st. We have Ode to the Half-Broken by Suzanne Palmer. 40 years ago, the world nearly ended. This is a story about coming to terms with your past, with who you've become, and who you still want to be. A tale of resilience and hope, and an ode to those struggling to become whole in a world half broken. And this one releases on April 28th. Then we have An Arcane Study of Stars by Sidney J. Shields, a historical dark academia fantasy filled with ancient secret societies, a swoon-worthy rivals to lovers' romance, and dangerous deals made after dark. Perfect for fans of The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue and The Atlas Six. Due to be released April 28th. Then we have Molka by Monica Kim. The title of Monica Kim's new horror novel refers to a deeply unsettling real life epidemic in South Korea, in which creepy little men use spy cams to illegally film women, then upload the footage online. Kim's novel tells the story of what happens when one young woman takes vengeance, and that one is coming out on April 28th. Book number 42. She Waits Where Shadows Gather by Michelle Tang. And it says, parents should pass down stories, not spirits. Some inherit memories, others inherit monsters. And this one comes out on May 5th. Then we have Honey by Imani Thompson. And this one says, a dark, provocative adrenaline rush of a novel about a graduate student who murders bad men and justifies it in the name of feminism by a bold new voice in fiction, releasing May 5th. Number 44 is I Know a Place by Nat Cassidy, and it says, a diabolical haunting and a diabolical haunting and an unforgettable horror short story collection from USA Today best-selling author Nat Cassidy, featuring his unique blend of gleefully terrifying fiction and including his Bram Stoker Award nominated novella Rest Stop. Expected publication May 5th. Then we have The Tapestry of Fate by Shannon Chakraborty, and this is the second book or the follow-up book to The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. I haven't read that yet, but it is one that I definitely want to get to soon. So I'm looking forward to The Tapestry of Fate this year because it means that I can just continue on straight away. And that one is due to come out on the 12th of May. Then we have A Parade of Horribles by Matt Dinnerman, and that is book number 8 in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, which is a series about Carl and his cat Donut, and I'm going to explain this terribly, but it's forced into a gamified version of the world where they have to beat different monsters and go through the levels and pick up power-ups and kind of make friends and form allyships and all of that sort of stuff. And it's about friendship and acceptance and, fighting corrupt governments, basically. It's very good. It's got a very strong humor element to it, which is not always something that I enjoy in books, but the way that this series is written, it just works, and especially when you listen to it on an audiobook. So highly recommend, if you are going to pick up the Dungeon Crawler Carl series, that you do read it on audiobook. And this one comes out on May 12th as well. Then we have, which I've put it in here, but I'm not going to get to it this year because it is book number 18 of the Guild Hunter series, and that is Archangel's Eternity by Nalini Singh. And this is actually the conclusion to that series, which I have only read part of book 1. I have books 1 through to 4 here, and I do plan on getting the rest once I have read books 1, 2, 3, and 4. But yes, I thought I would put it here for those that are into the series or are looking for a series that is complete to read. This one will be complete this year. And that one is also expected to come out on May 5th. Then we have Femme Feral, a novel by Sam Beck-Bessinger. A hyper-competent tech leader who thinks she's going through perimenopause discovers that she's actually turning into a werewolf in this feminist dark comedy debut, coming out May 12th. Then we have We Dance Upon Demons by Vaishnavi Patel. From the New York Times bestselling author of Kakai, a galvanizing standalone contemporary fantasy following a burnt-out reproductive health care worker as she fights back against escalating attacks on her clinic and the malevolent forces in hot pursuit of her newly acquired power. This one comes out on May 12th. Book 50 is Nothing Tastes as Good by Luc Dumas. Emmett Truesdale has finally found a diet that works out for him. Sure, it's a dangerous clinical trial, and sure, he's losing big chunks of time to memory blackouts. The important part is that people are mysteriously disappearing, and authorities are warning of a cannibalistic killer on the loose. Wait, what were you talking about? San Diego author Luc Dumas author of A History of Fear, is back with a vengeance. Coming out May 19th. Book number 51 is The Arcane Arts by S.D. Coverley. And this says, in this thrilling and sensuous dark academia fantasy, an ambitious graduate student and her advisor dive into studying a taboo branch of magic, igniting a dangerous passion between them. And that one comes out on May 19th. Then we have Bone of My Bone by Joanna Van Veen, and this is Bram Stoker Award nominee and USA Today bestseller Joanna Van Veen unveils a sapphic folk horror tour de force, perfect for fans of The Witch and The Salt Grows Heavy. A skull's grin is external. Sorry, no, that's wrong. A skull's grin is eternal, and this one comes out on May 26th. Then we have Bromantasy by Mare Roche. And this one says, 2 heroes, 1 brain cell. Bromantasy is a cozy queer fantasy about the mortifying ordeal of being known by your totally platonic best friend and the epic quest that might force you to confront the truth. Coming out May 26th. Number 54 is The Children by Melissa Albert, and the cover of this one is what really drew me in. But I do really enjoy Melissa Albert's writing, so I was really happy to see that she's releasing a book this year. And this one says, an intoxicating, haunting new novel from New York Times bestselling author Melissa Albert, in which the estranged adult children of a legendary author written into their dead mother's beloved fantasy series contend with the vine-like creep of legacy, memory, and magic. Coming out June 2nd.